Hello, this is Low Energy Soul, and welcome back to Warcraft Weekly, the show that is barely being thrown together this week because this is actually the third video that I'm working on today. So, remember back in ancient times, and by the way, like the video, subscribe for more common sense, copium-filled content. Remember back in ancient times, like a couple of weeks ago, when we were kind of thirsting for news and updates about Dragonflight, and now here I am strung out, trying to cover all the cool stuff that's been happening in the past few days. And yeah, it's dawned on me that I'm complaining both ways. After all, I am a World of Warcraft player. Whatever the case, I hope that you all had a pleasant week. I'm glad you made it to the end of the week, and let's get to the news. Just the other day, new talent trees were revealed for the Hunter and Rogue classes. I covered it from top to bottom, and a link to the video and the article is in the video description. And this round of entries was unique because we got to take a look at two of the pure DPS classes and how the class and specialization tree approach would work here. Now, I admit that I'm not quite as proficient at anything but protection paladins, but I did notice some unique approaches to class identity and raid utility. A marksman hunter with pet-centric talents on the class tree sounds ludicrous, and it probably is, but it's really cool to see that with pure classes, there are a lot of possibilities that we as players can identify and explore, and then maybe, just maybe, the WoW team can take notice and then turn that otherwise very niche and obscure spec into something viable enough to take off within the community. But I also want to point out a very interesting talent for outlaw rogues. It's called Restless Crew, an enhancement to Restless Blades, which exists now, that lowers the cooldown of the rogue's major cooldowns by 1 second per combo point spent. Restless Crew is a party-wide buff that lowers everyone's major cooldowns, at least in the party, by 0.2 seconds per combo point or 1 second per full finisher. Now, math-wise, it's a little bit hard to say if it accounts for all that much, and there's no telling if multiple rogues per raid group are worth sacrificing those coveted spots. I super doubt it, actually. Naturally, the reaction from some has been less than favorable, especially after the higher-end community has been continually railing on power infusion as this really powerful buff that ends up causing drama within groups. But is Restless Crew as bad or worse? I looked up a random rogue, a decent one, over on Warcraft logs, and I saw that during a Bloodlust period, they spend roughly 200 or so combo points within this 45-second Bloodlust window. Outside of that window, though, without all the fancy-schmancy buffs, it takes about 2 minutes to get that similar performance. With the Restless Crew talent, this is going to shave 40 seconds off of people's cooldowns in both of these scenarios. So, in conclusion, yeah, it does seem to be a pretty big deal for those lucky enough to be affected. Now, since this is pre-alpha stuff that we're talking about, I don't have the energy to judge, but a talent like this does beg the question, should this be party or raid-wide? And in either circumstance, is it too powerful for a single class, let alone a single spec, to have? Now, while you type obviously in the comments, and make sure that you include the snap in there, okay? Consider what we have in Dragonflight. We're going to have talent trees. We're going to have the option to take up a powerful group-wide effect or not. Because what if we haven't seen the last of this particular cooldown reduction effect? Let's go back, or let's go forward in time to Wrath of the Lich King. Some of you folks might remember an effect called Replenishment, which randomly restored mana to valid users. It basically turned classes like Retribution Paladins into mana batteries. And they weren't the only ones who could proc Replenishment either. Several classes and specs were able to do it as long as the talent was activated. I can honestly see a potential future where the effect of Restless Crew, this cooldown reduction, is normalized to just reduce all major cooldowns by 15% raid-wide, and this effect could be given as an option for multiple specs, multiple classes. It could be, well, more or less an assumed buff, just like Replenishment, and we've only seen 5 out of the 13 classes so far. So I ask you, viewer, would that be a better step in the right direction? And don't forget the snap in your response, but I'd love to get your thoughts. The WoW team also published a lengthy blog on their plans for professions in Dragonflight, and there's a lot to cover. I gave my reactions initially, and I'm going to have another lengthy response regarding crafted epic gear published onto the channel over the weekend or so. But here I want to talk about consumables, and I'll try to keep the breakdown short and sweet. In Dragonflight, consumables and the materials used to make them are going to have more of a realistic feel. The blog post put a bit of emphasis on potions and what are called phials. These are going to be replacements for flasks. Potions and phials will have differing levels of quality based on the crafter's skill level, extra reagents used in the crafting process, and the quality of the materials and reagents used. The better the quality, the better the potion gets. The blog post suggested that the consumables effect could be more powerful. It could have a longer duration, maybe more charges. Extra items, meanwhile, called finishing reagents, when they're added to the process too, they can boost your inspiration. I know, I'm losing you already. Inspiration is another way of saying like it's a crafting critical strike. So it gives a chance to make potions at a higher quality than you normally could. But the post did make it clear that we'll be able to make the best quality stuff without luck, without inspiration, and we'd be able to make up for the lack of RNG in a different and permanent way in the long term. On top of that, there's profession gear that I talked about a while back and buffs to our profession skills and specializations. We've also learned about new stats, including resourcefulness that gives a chance to use fewer materials than normal. There's multi-craft to proc multiple potions or phials, and one of my favorites, crafting speed. That sounds so boring, right? I know, but you know what? If I can get like a 5% speed buff while I'm crafting thousands and thousands of inks, I would find that to be not boring at all. Having stats like this, I think, is pretty neat. Thankfully, and I gotta really emphasize this, you can't fail at making something. Like once you meet the minimum requirements, the stats are just there to make your crafts better than what they otherwise would be. So I fully trust that between all of the gear that will be made available, whatever buffs you can get and all of that, we're going to be able to min-max how to get the most out of these stats. So, for example, like for top quality, you probably want to go all out for inspiration. For the highest efficiency, you probably want to find a good balance between resourcefulness and multi-craft. For mass quantity, add in a little bit of crafting speed wherever you can. And here's why I like this whole package so far. With different potion quality, there will of course be a preferred item quality to use. Now obviously folks would want to use the best potions because that is how the race to world first gets done. But what about world 12,000, right? What about those progression nights with dozens of pulls that only really get like a minute or two into the fight? I get it. Sometimes you gotta ramp, right? But other times, you gotta ramp on a budget. I mentioned phials, which are basically shorter duration flasks meant to be balanced by only requiring half the effort or the materials that's required to make them, whatever that's supposed to mean. The sample phials they showed off here on the side, they look sort of promising. Like the versatility buff, it's very not interesting, but I can see why one might want to swap between these other two phials, because one encounter might allow one to stack and plant, while the other might just give an opportunity for a caster to stand by themselves. But I'm still a bit iffy on this. Like I see these shorter duration phials like I see those half bags of chips that would be cheaper if it just came in one bigger bag. Between this and the different stats and the reagents though, I'm just excited to mess around with something new that makes me think a little bit. But now I turn it over to you. How are you feeling about consumables in Dragonflight as a user or a crafter? Since I'm producing this video so late and it's scheduled to publish in like only a few hours once I'm done with post-production, I'm just gonna race to the end with some quickfire news. Another blog post from the WoW team addressed some concerns mostly with hunter pets. The takeaway I got from that is the possibility that pets will once again be able to specialize however they want, which means my hunter is going back to crabs armed with knives. Just earlier, a hotfix started going around through servers that added an item that allowed cosmic flux trading across your account. I seriously can't believe that we haven't thought of this before. Dude, props to Blizzard for being so innovative. Heroes of the Storm is going into maintenance mode after a few short years of glory and a few more years of, hey, what happened to the glory? We should expect a few years of will they, won't they shut it down. That is, until they allow custom maps. And overnight, Heroes of the Dota Storm will be a worldwide phenomenon, copyright violation, and source of hentai all at once. In an interview with the LA Times, Blizzard big boss Mike Ybarra revealed that the company intends to hold an in-person Blizzcon in 2023. I guess Activision Blizzard decided their grand experiment is over because also today Planet Earth announced that the coronavirus has suddenly disappeared. So yeah, I guess they were really behind it. But anyway, that's the show and the jailer is dead. Blue circles, get in. Everyone soak the blue circles.
Don't overlap.
Yeah, don't overlap them. Defile. Watch it. Move. Keep going.
Oh my god.
Oh shit.
You kill it.
Kill it.
No.
We just gotta get there again.
Heroic Jailer's easier than normal Anduin.
It is, huh?
Look, I'm
Might
not
be
saying
right.
you're not wrong.
After 2 full days of wipes, a big nerf, and an additional 36 minutes, I started paying out the bounty for a well-deserved kill. That would have been better deserved pre-nerfs, but it's all good to me, right? Reading the room, or at least the guild room, the team just really needed to get AOTC off of their shoulders already. Now, it wasn't because we were worried we wouldn't kill it, the jailer just needed more pulls, and we would have gotten them earlier, just that in total, the raid experience, it felt very long for a team of my play style, I guess. I still thought it was fun though. Those fights felt pretty engaging. They needed lots more coordination than other raids did, but it still allowed for a decent bit of improvisation. And with how my group comp would change over the course of an evening, yeah, that improv was very real. Anyway, it's time to screw around for a few weeks before Season 4 starts, but I also plan on diving into the Dragonflight Alpha, I hope, which very loud whispers are suggesting will begin next week. So cross your fingers, all them fingers, and pray that, well, that any of us get in, or at least me, right? So I can soak in all of the things and spit it back at you. So your guys' support over the past however long it's been has been amazing. It has been great seeing new folks pop onto the Twitch channel. We've got our wonderful patrons, including newcomers with like Matthew and the return of Tomas. I hope that all is well with you and your family. Through your contributions, by liking and subscribing to the channel, you help add another voice to this community of ours. My wish, though, is to be a louder voice, because your support and compliments and kindness, they also help build that bit of confidence that I need and reinforce some ambition. I'm grateful for it all, and I want to be on the front lines of this Dragonflight Alpha, so join me for more coverage, say hi and stream, and otherwise, please take care of yourselves, and I will see you for the next thing. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.